So Spider-Man 2 is officially here, and with the game coming out in Australia a few hours before most of the world due to us not only being upside down but also from the future, I've already clocked up a good probably 10 to 12 hours at this point, and there are plenty of things that I've only just discovered that I definitely wish I knew earlier. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Spider-Man 2 content. There's going to be a heap of stuff coming out over the next few days and weeks. But with that being said, let's get stuck into 10 things that I wish I knew earlier in Spider-Man 2. Now the first one is a very simple one, and this is essentially just to do a bunch of the side mission content that you can find around Manhattan. For those who weren't aware, the map is broken up into essentially 14 different districts, and in order to actually be able to fast travel to any of these districts, you need to get all of them to essentially their second tier of the district progress, and to do that you need to do a bunch of that side content. Now that can be anything from taking photo opportunities, it can be getting collectibles around that area of the map, essentially just anything within that district that gives you XP will also give you XP towards the district progress. And like I said, you need to be at the second tier in order to fast travel. So that is something I definitely wish I did earlier on. Granted, the traversal in this game is amazing, so it's not like you need fast travel. It's just fun enough swinging around the city and even flying with the new web wings. But for those of you who do want to have fast travel available, I would definitely recommend doing this early because it will save you a lot of time later on in the game. Now the next one is actually a settings change, and this is to pretty much stop you having to spam buttons when it puts you in those real-time events where it's pretty much telling you to spam square, for example. Now what you want to do is you want to go into your settings, you want to go to the controls tab, and you want to go to this setting here called repeated button presses, and you want to change that to hold. What that means is that when, for example, someone's got you pinned down and it pops up with the big square image on screen telling you to spam that over and over, instead of having to hit the button a million times, you literally just have to hold it now. And although it is a very small change and it's not hard to tap the button repeatedly, it is just definitely easier, and it will probably save your controller at the end of the day as well, because obviously controllers do break over time. The more you can limit the spamming of buttons, the better at the end of the day. So definitely go in there and change that. It will make the game a lot less annoying. Now something else I didn't figure out straight away, and maybe I'm just an idiot, which to be fair I can confirm that already, but for those who didn't know, you can actually still use the X button to speed up when you are using your web wings. As I'm sure you all know, when you are swinging through the city, if you press X, it will do essentially a little dash forward where you shoot a web and pretty much it just pulls you forward. Now you can actually do that when you are flying as well. I did not actually know that initially, and obviously once you've been flying for quite some time, it does start to slow down and you obviously lose altitude. However, doing this can allow you to fly a fair bit further. So definitely get out there, use that X button when you are flying, and you will actually travel a lot faster and also a lot further at the same time. Now next up we have yet another settings changes, and this is actually to do with pretty much finding where you need to be, because I've actually heard a lot of people saying they don't really know where they need to be a lot of the time, and it can be a little bit confusing. What you want to do is you want to head into your camera settings and you want to go to the waypoint settings. What this is going to do is that when you turn this on, every time you scan, it will essentially turn the camera automatically to where you need to be going, and it will essentially point you in the right direction. So if there's ever times when you're feeling lost during a mission, you know maybe what you need to do but you don't know where it is, for example, simply pressing R3 to scan will pretty much put your camera directly where you need to go. And for any of you who are feeling like you're getting lost, this is going to be a massive help. Now next up we have another one for traversal, and this is the fact that you can actually slingshot from absolutely anywhere. Now I thought you needed to be doing this from certain locations. For example, you needed to actually have 2 lamp poles or something, even just 2 buildings that were there that you could essentially slingshot off. But it turns out you can do this from quite literally anywhere on the map. You can be on the highest point and have 0 buildings or anything around you, and if you try and slingshot, it will still work. So that is something that you guys should absolutely be making the most of. You don't have to actually have a realistic slingshot where you've got it on 2 lamp poles like we saw in the trailers, for example. You can literally just do this from anywhere, and it's going to help a hell of a lot when it comes to traversal. Now something else I wish I knew earlier, which is actually very similar to the first one, but it is more to do with just your overall level. You want to be trying to earn XP as fast as you possibly can. Now I understand that sounds very obvious. In any game you want to earn XP as quick as you can, but in a lot of games, especially single player games, it doesn't really matter what level you are. Whereas in Spider-Man 2, not only do all of your skill points unlock as you actually gain those levels, but even the suits that you unlock unlock are actually tied to your levels as well. And it does mean that your overall level in this game is actually very, very important. Whereas obviously in a lot of other games, it isn't necessarily all that important, because in other games you can often earn skill points a different way, for example. Because of this, you want to be earning XP as fast as you can. You want to do essentially anything that is nearby that will earn you XP. Even like I said, doing the photo opportunities. If you ever see crime updates, you want to be trying to take out those enemies and finish those crime missions, because that will earn you a lot of XP. And trust me, you want to do that because obviously you will need to essentially level at the same rate as the enemies do as you progress through the story. Otherwise, it will become very difficult later on in the game. Now, this is one that I'm sure most of you probably know, but it is still fairly easy to miss. And this is once again using that scanner to be able to find things throughout the world, as it will display them very easily on your screen. You can pretty much see everything that you need to know within your general area. Now, obviously I've touched on the web wings, and if you guys weren't aware, which I'm sure all of you were, there are wind tunnels scattered throughout the map that allow you to traverse the map a hell of a lot faster. And when you do scan, you can actually see these appearing right in front of you. It makes them a lot easier to see. Now, you can see them without scanning. You can see the gusts of wind pretty much blowing past the screen. But when you do press R3 to scan, it shows them a lot more clearly. And this is going to help a lot with traversal. You're not sort of wandering around trying to hopefully stumble across some sort of wind tunnel. By scanning, it is going to make it a hell of a lot more obvious. And that is only going to make your traversal a hell of a lot faster at the end of the day. Now, next up is something that is actually really, really useful when it comes to unlocking different suits or even different upgrades for both of the Spider-Man. And this is that you want to use the missions tab to essentially find what parts you would need for certain upgrades, rather than just essentially waiting to find them at random. Now, for example, if you go to the suit tech tab and then press triangle to see where to find those actual parts that are needed, it'll show you exactly what you need to unlock that certain item. And then from there, once you actually know which parts you're in need of, you can then go to that missions tab. And over on the left there, you can actually see all the stuff you need to see in relation to what you just saw and what parts you need for the suits, for example. And from there, you can find the different missions you need to get those exact parts. So this is a much easier way than just wandering around the city trying to find certain parts. That is going to take you a hell of a lot of time. And unfortunately for my dumbass, I did not realize this until probably halfway through my playtime so far. And I'd probably have a hell of a lot more parts if I had have known this earlier. Now, I did touch on the slingshots earlier on, but for those who didn't know, there is also a pretty much a better version of the regular slingshot, and this is the super slingshot. Now, there are certain locations around the map which you can find by these slingshot icons on the map, as well as they're pretty obvious to see too. They have these big, pretty much a glowing runway looking area. It's as if you're a plane that's about to take off, and to be honest, it's not that different, because when you use these super slingshots, you are going to be absolutely flying. These are essentially just a slingshot on steroids. Keep your eyes peeled for these throughout the map, and they do not change location either. So obviously once you find one, if you can remember where they are, you're going to have a much better time when it comes to traversal, because you can use these constantly throughout the map to speed up your traversal. Now, lastly, we have a bit of a smaller one that is definitely still very, very handy, and this is your shortcut buttons. Now, it turns out that they've actually mapped the combat and just general gameplay so well to this game that they've actually left 2 buttons spare on the controller that they didn't even need to use. All of the other stuff is tied to every other button, and so that gives us the left and right options on the D-pad to set to pretty much whatever you want to have. Now, for me, I've set mine to the FNSM app, as well as the camera as well, simply because both of those require you to pretty much swipe on the touchpad, which, to be fair, is actually a really cool touch. But every now and then I've noticed when I'm trying to bring up the app, it might not work, or I accidentally press the touchpad instead of swiping it. And so this way, it is nice to just have the actual button alternatives, and this doesn't take away from their original mapping either. So even if you set these, you can still use the original buttons you had. There are a bunch of different options in there though, so don't just stick to the ones that I've gone with. Take a look at those shortcut buttons, because they are definitely going to be handy if there are certain combinations, for example, throughout the game that you find are a little bit confusing. You can just set these to those shortcut buttons instead. So anyway, those are 10 things that I wish I knew earlier when it comes to Spider-Man 2. I'm keen to hear your thoughts, so be sure to leave all of your own recommendations down in the comment section. Like I said, if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty of Spider-Man content on the way, and I'm going to be doing a setup tour at 1K subscribers as well, so make sure you don't miss out on that. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.